Oh, 11 watching now. 12.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Game Audio Reel Reviews. We are super excited to be here again. Some super cool reel submissions this time, as always, to be fair. And yeah, I'm with Jon and Lewis today, also known as Jon. No, sorry, bad joke. Anyway, probably a lot of people have already kind of heard of us, but sound designer at Soundcuts, of course, probably known for the game audio learning stuff. Jon is...
I'm Jon Kelliher. I'm a sound designer at No Breaks Games, and yeah, really happy to be here.
Hi, and I'm Lewis. I'm a sound designer at Soundcuts as well as Greg. And yeah, me and Greg are also really pushing this new game audio social platform called Airwiggles at the moment. So sign up, it's great fun. But let's get on to the showreels.
Yeah, so first one is from Joe Cooney, and we will just give it a listen right now. I'm just going to set this to looping. There we go. And let's dive in. Fantastic. Super
Awesome.
cool reel, Joey. Really good. Yeah, first impressions. Who wants to start?
Yeah, I think it's really great. I think it's a really strong reel, and I'm very particularly impressed by the one in the middle, which is the abandoned hospital one, which I'm pretty sure that Joe has implemented all the stuff himself, which is fantastic. And that's like great stuff for a show because it actually sounds and looks like if it said it was an actual game that was on the market, I wouldn't have doubted it. So far it's really good. But in general, yeah, really strong all the way. And it's gonna be hard to pick it apart really because it's so good.
Yeah, same here. I think it's really strong. I think, there's like always room for improvement, but I think it generally nice flow, good length, and yeah, all sounded good.
Yeah, for sure agree with everything on here. It's a nice length as well. I didn't at any point feel like I'd want to skip or anything. It goes well from one clip to the other, and yeah, it's super solid. Let's run through some of the individual clips in that case and do a little bit more analysis. So, starting off with the first one. Right, so I think here really, really strong weapon sound design. It's got great punch. You've got kind of it sounds to me, the reverb tail is nice. It's not like overpowering, it's in the background, but it's got this nice like boom effect where it really brings the room to kind of, it showcases that, and that's really good. I think main criticism here is the typical one. There's not a lot of ambience, especially in those silent parts. You can see it in the waveform here, where it's very, very sparse. I love your little the robot vocalization really gives it great character. That's a big bonus for me personally. I really like that. Gives it a bit of interesting life and stuff. And I think those are my main points. So really kind of like focus on the ambiences. I thought all the robot stuff was good. Maybe the impacts of like the impacts of the shots potentially on the robot, I would like to hear something to give me some feedback, because when I'm playing, and that's important to make it kind of feel good, like, okay, you've hit something, and especially also important for accessibility. But yeah, those are my main points. John, or
I'd
Lewis?
actually, sorry, you go ahead, John. I'll let you go first.
Okay, sure. Pretty much everything Greg said. Just a quick note on the title card at the start, I think could probably be a bit stronger and a little bit more like called out. Currently it's a bit, it wasn't exciting enough for me. So would you mind playing it again, Greg? Yeah, I think personally, I would say in this instance, especially when the text is just kind of like fading in, you could probably just either cut straight into the first clip, or at the very least have some ambience like leading into it, because there isn't a big flashy kind of like card coming up. There's no need for having some like flashy audio like call out. So yeah, you could probably just show your name coming straight up, and then lead in with ambiences or some of the footsteps or something like that. Then totally same again as Greg was saying, that like the ambience could do with a little bit more, like what's there. There's some like LED screens and stuff that you could probably add in, like a mimic spot effects, and also you'd probably end up hearing like footsteps of the enemies coming from a mile away. But they're my main points. What Greg said about the hit markers could probably be called out a little bit more. Look at Call of Duty games and the way that they really like hammer home the point that you've actually hit your target versus having missed. And then the last one, I'd say that the grenade explosions could probably do with just a little bit more like transient punch. But overall, they're sounding really good.
Nice. Yeah, I totally agree. With the ambiences, I think what John was saying about the kind of LEDs on the wall, I think that's the biggest thing. I think could have some kind of like, neon buzzing sound coming off of it. My main thing I was going to say, I'm surprised no one's mentioned it, because it's I actually disagree with you, Greg, which doesn't happen very often. I didn't really like the robot vocals. I liked the fact they were there. I'm not saying cut them entirely, but just something about them. To me, they sounded like just too human. It sounded like just a human voice pitched up, and then with like a very light processing on it. And I think to me, I don't know the game, maybe they are like half human or something. If that's the case, then it works a little bit better. But for me, I don't know, I wasn't quite believing it. It kind of distracted me a little bit from all the awesome kind of gun stuff you had going on. So I'd say I'd maybe mess around like running it through like stronger processing and like the coders, and maybe pitching it either up a lot more or down a lot more. I'd potentially try pitching it down a few octaves rather than up from like the human voice that it initiated with.
But yeah, like a spanner in the works real quick is that actually it's quite faithful to the Halo voices of the grunts. So in that regard, it's quite similar. But I also think that it's a redesign as well. So what you're saying, Lewis, is totally valid.
Yeah, well, if it is like, perfectly suits the characters, and that makes more sense, and if someone's watching it and is a diehard Halo fan, then great. But yeah, well, in which case, feel free to discard me, because it's all my opinion. But yeah, I thought that was good. Great stuff.
Cool. Next clip, which is, let's see, where is it? Should have put markers. There we go. Let's listen to that again. Yeah, I think it's really cool.
I love the
Yeah.
creature scream at the start. It sounds really good.
I don't think I have too much to add here. It's a pretty short clip. It's the creature screams, I guess, and then the footsteps are the main focuses points. Do you have anything to add, John?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. The creature scream is fantastic. The ambience is good. I believe the world, and it feels heavy, which is the most important part. It feels heavy and big. The only thing I'd say is that for me, the stereo imaging is a little bit weird. Like it feels like it pans too far to the right too quickly.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
Yeah, I would say just pull back on it a bit, because when we hear things in real life, even if something is on our right, like entirely on our right, we still hear stuff with our left ear. So I'd probably only pan it to when it's like completely to the right, maybe like 70-80%, just so that we can still hear a little bit. And you'd probably still hear like ambiences or like reverb reflections on your left side as well. So but other than that, really good stuff.
Yeah, just as a general note, really, about the panning stuff, because I feel like we've said something like that a few times now. I think, like, at university, I don't know about you guys, but I was taught, like, if something's on the right side of the screen, pan it to the right. If it's on the left side of the screen, pan it to the left. But really, in actual film and game stuff, if it's on the screen, it's probably panned central because it's in front of you. So I think, yeah, a lot of people really overdo the panning sometimes. I think in that case, yeah, I could bring it a little bit to the right towards the end, especially when the big monster walks off screen. But yeah, it's just too much. But no, sounds awesome apart from that. Really, really good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Good points as well. Also, I just wanted to say, feel free, everyone, to use the chat too. We have the window open so we can see it. So if there's any questions or comments and stuff, and it's also great for to give each other some feedback. Cool, next clip. Yeah, I mean, that is super, super awesome. I think the only thing for me would be, because we're like outside and it's a big kind of mountain ranges and stuff, I think it would be really cool to add like a slapback echo to the tail to make it even bigger. Because the tail is really good, but it still feels like it could be even bigger, and especially because it's such a big weapon, it making so much sound, I think that would be a cool addition. Otherwise, I really love what you've done with the charge up sound here, that it's kind of overheating or loading, I guess, to get that final blast out. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Not too much to add here either, in my opinion. The gun sounds really, really beefy and nice. I'll just play it once more. Oops. Yeah. What do you think, John?
Yeah, totally agree. Some slapback would really sell it as like an outside space. I think everything's great. Just for the sake of giving some feedback, I think that there's a whole mechanism that I can't necessarily hear. I think the gun sounds are fantastic, but there's a whole mechanism that's like pulling out while it's being shot, and then as soon as it's like overheated, or as soon as it does like the big blast at the end, the whole thing kind of like clamps together. And I think that just some like metallic kind of like mechanism sounds would like really just help sell it, just to add a little bit more crispness to the high end.
Cool. Yeah, I totally agree with everything you said. It's another really, really great piece. Short. I mean, it's short and snappy, and it's just like it's to the point. It's action packed. It's great. I love it. My one note, and to be fair, this is another thing where I've not played the game, so I don't exactly know what is going on here. But when the kind of laser bullet things turn from red to blue, I can tell there's a very slight audible difference between the red shots and the blue shots. To me, as someone that's never played Doom Eternal, I know, believe it or not, and I don't know the gun, it looks like the magical blue bullets are like stronger than the red ones, just how they look and how I don't know, just maybe it's they're light and blue and like they seem electrical and lightningy. Like I'm if it was me designing it, I'd be inclined to kind of like add like an extra few layers to the blue bullets to make it sound like they're different, they're a bit more powerful. obviously this depends on if that's actually true or not. I imagine, anyone know why it changes color, the bullets, halfway through the firing? Do they get more powerful? Do they change less powerful even?
I don't know.
Any ideas?
No
I
idea.
don't think it's like very clear, but yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
I think just maybe just a few more layers, like, you know, I'm imagining kind of like more like kind of electrical layers, because it's like blue electricity. That's the kind of thing I'm feeling. But anything different really, to make it just a little bit more audibly different to the first round. But yeah, sounds amazing. I'm just picking tiny bits because there's not much else to say really, because it sounds really good.
Cool. Next weapon. Yeah. Let's hear that again. Yeah, love the Foley. I think, yeah, the tail here is really nice. Yeah, I don't know. I think this one, the Foley for me is the big fantastic part. The shots are really good. I think they sound maybe not quite big enough for the weapon, but that might be too nitpicky here. They sound really good, and it makes sense within the context, but I would almost, it's such a huge weapon, it would be like maybe another layer of something that's like doof, 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 because it's almost a bit like mid-rangey, and this is such a huge weapon. I think that might benefit from it. But yeah, it's pretty nitpicky.
A bit more uber loud, I think.
yeah, like a bit more sharper transients on those bullets, and then a little bit of a low layer as well, I think. What do you think, Lewis?
I think, yeah, again, for the sake of being quickly, I won't dive too much into this one because we should move on. But like, the only thing I'd say maybe you could add, and like, I don't know if this would work, it might not be appropriate, is like kind of bullet ricochets on the second part when they hit the bridge. Just like some little really tiny ding, 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 dings in the background, which obviously you won't be able to hear over the bullets, but maybe once the last one's fired, you could hear a bit like, you know, flowing over. I'd say maybe give it a go and see if it sounds good. But like, to be honest, like, I am just like picking up things for the sake of it. Like, it sounds really great. I think the main part, which is the gun firing stuff, sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Someone in the chat has said add some rocket whiz and trails as they fly off, which is also a good shout.
I was just about to say that, and my feedback is that I think everything about the gun is great, and even the bullets, like the bullet shots, because I'm trying to think of like, if this was in a game, you wouldn't want it to become like too tiring, especially since the whole game is about shooting. True. But one of the most fundamental parts of this weapon is the fact that it is like a machine gun mashed with a rocket launcher. And if you actually look at the projectiles that you're firing, they are sort of like whizzing about semi-randomly and exploding at the end. And I think that that's quite a key part that's being missed in this. So maybe revise that. I don't think all of them are hitting the bridge, so I wouldn't necessarily say that, but just maybe look at it one more time, Greg.
Yeah, that's some good feedback for sure.
So I think just look at that as Matt Galt said in the chat, like rocket whiz trails and explosions, but like small poppy explosions for when they actually explode in the distance.
Also, thank you so much for the support. That's awesome. Thank you for the donation, and also welcome, Tom. Hello, good to have you. Cool. Yeah, I think so this is implementation as well, which is really cool. Implementation stuff is always amazing to have in your reel. I think for me the big thing is because it's so ambient focused, I'm not hearing that much stuff in it. There's a lot of cool kind of room tone things and obviously the voice, but it's like, this is a abandoned place. It's like I would want to hear some creaks, some like skiddling around just out of your earshot and stuff like that. Of course, yeah, because it's 3D and implemented, you'd have to put those emitters in. But things like the pipes maybe creaking a little bit, and having a random container of like little scuttles in the hallway down here, for example. And just kind of, yeah, I think just adding a little bit more layers to make it a lot more spooky. As you can see, there's like a bunch of these instruments and stuff, and yeah, just like lots of metal things around. And it'd be really interesting to maybe have like a pill bottle that's kind of dropping on the floor and rolling just out of kind of in the distance, that it feels like, oh, someone is moving around, especially because you hear that voice at the end. So it's like what's the word, premonition type thing, where you're like, oh, there's something around, and then when you go out, it gives you the reason to walk around, and then you're like, oh god. So yeah, I think that would be one of the big sticking points for me. What do you think, John?
Yeah, everything you said, to be honest. I don't really have much else to add, but I think it sounds good, and the screams scares the crap out of me. I'm not good with horror, so good job.
Yeah, nice. With the ambiances that Greg was saying, I think, yeah, it could be building some more things, especially like things that are placed in the world, that so when you walk through it, you kind of feel the world move around you is a nice thing. One suggestion, it depends if the power's on in this hospital, but like all the pipes and radiators could have like kind of creaky, rattly, buzzy type sounds coming off of them. And I think that's the classic one for making sound creepy, which is cool. And yeah, like likewise, I really love how like there's a scream in the distance. You can hear it echoing down the corridor. I love to hear more stuff like that. Not necessarily more screams, but like anything like behind walls or down corridors, whether it's doors opening or footsteps or just random creaks or drones, whatever. But again, considering like this has been implemented yourself, I think it sounds really, really good. And like basic things like the footsteps just like work really nice. They're like nicely paced and they sound really spooky. Yeah, I guess let's move on.
Cool. Nice one. Who wants to start on this one?
I'll go for a really quick one. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, you go, Lewis. It's you.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what the lag's like. I don't know if I got in first or not, but it sounded like we just said it at the exact same time. Anyway, I really like this one. I think I've actually given you feedback on it before, Joe. The only thing I would say is that overall, like just everything, the whole picture, for some reason, to me, it feels a little bit not bright enough. Maybe I'm losing my hearing. But I'd say like that is not great advice, but like adding say fresh air on everything, I think would just help. I think because it's like a kind of 2D platformer, it's kind of bright, bold colors and pixel art. Everything just seems a little bit dull, and it sounds great. It's not like the designers say, it's just like the kind of like the mixing and the EQ levels of everything. I think it could just have a little bit more shine on it, especially on the bits that you want to draw the user's attention to. For example, all the things whizzing around, I reckon it could just be a little bit brighter. But really general note, and it's kind of, yeah, it might be the Discord stream I'm watching it on as well.
I'll give a quick another. Cool, yeah. John?
Yeah, I think my gut instinct tells me that this is probably the weakest, like the weakest shot or part of this reel. I think that it doesn't really match the standard as everything else. So just in terms of like the weight and the impacts and stuff. But that being said, I think adding a bit more sort of like shimmer, as Lewis said, probably adding a little bit more weight to the down ground pound, like exaggerate things a bit more. I also think that there's probably a couple of like syncing issues that could also be the stream. In terms of the books actually flying into the cupboards, and yeah, I think everything could be a little bit more exaggerated than it currently is. Just I hate to say it, but like look at how the game sounds and just check out the way that they like really call everything out. I think that there's a really cool breakdown of the Celeste F mod project from Power Up Audio guys, and yeah, they go into detail about how to actually do the like scatter shots of the books flying around, because I think that the stereo imaging with that could probably be even more exaggerated as well. But I think that it like the groundwork is definitely there. I think it could probably just be more.
Yeah, agree on everything that was said. I think for me as well. Everything that's in there is cool, adding a little bit more brightness. I also think at the end there's not much happening for a long time, so maybe if you bring up the waterfalls a little bit and the ambience, kind of as it would duck in game anyway, so you can do that in, just automate, bring up your ambiences. And hey Presley, hey Peter, good to see you too, and thank you so much for the support, Steve. Big appreciation. Yeah, so last thing is the outro card. I think same as the intro, like it's all right. It could probably just maybe fade some of the ambience into it or something. But yeah, I think
you could
overall
cut it as well, to be honest.
Sorry?
You could just cut it as well, to be honest.
That as well, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think overall really, really strong reel. Great job on that, and yeah, well done. Excellent work. Cool, let's go to Enzo's next. Nice one. Wow. Good stuff, good stuff. Whoops. There we go. Excellent reel as well. First impressions from me. There's a lot of clips in here, lots of short clips as well. There's a lot of great stuff and a lot of strong points. I think overall there's a lot of the sounds are quite thin, I think, and also there's a lack of detail in a bunch of places. So I think the general kind of impression would be it also felt a little bit long, so I would almost like cut it shorter, focus on a couple of the really good segments, take out a couple of the really, really short clips, and then try and focus and bring in a lot more details and just spend a lot more time working up those to a really, really high standard. And I think that way you can have a little bit of a shorter but a higher quality and more focused reel. The other thing is that the intro is really cool up to here, and then it kind of is really long. Like the time it takes to get from here to the actual content is I think way too long. So it's a really cool graphic. You've done some great sound for it in the intro. That's awesome. But then I think here it just, there's just lots of silence, and I think I would just cut that entire bit out. But yeah, those are my kind of like overall first impressions. How about you, Jon?
Yeah, everything you said pretty much. I think quality over quantity for sure. There are a lot of clips in here, and some of them are very quick. There's the Deathloop ones were the ones that really stood out to me. That I think some of them probably aren't even a second long, and you could probably, rather than taking loads of clips and trying to look at like multiple different things, focus on one and focus on all the little details about it, because that's what will get you hired. is the ability to sort of like think something through and every detail of it. Because likely that's what you're going to have to do in a game audio job, is you're given a weapon or you're given like a room or something, and you're going to have to like do every little individual detail in that, depending on the studio you're working for. I think with regards to what you would be applying for with this reel, I would think that there are some things that aren't necessarily as relevant to game audio stuff as others. So I think that my general rule of thumb is like at least 3 or 4 strong clips that are long enough to like really like digest, but focusing on maybe one cinematic and then the rest being like gameplay focused. The Spider-Man one was fantastic. I think that like that's definitely one to focus on. I think that the Horizon Forbidden West one could have been longer. It was definitely one of the stronger ones in there as well. And I think that some of the Old Republic stuff was really cool as well. So I'd say like pick those 3 or whichever ones you care about more, and then like really focus on them.
Lewis.
Great. Yeah. So what I'd say, I mean, I think when the reel started, I was like, oh God, I'm going to have nothing to say here. It's such a long reel and don't know how to give any feedback. But then like I noticed as it went through, the kind of standard level of audio, I think, was very up and down. And so what I'm assuming has happened is that I think you've kind of done all these reels and you've improved so much over the time you've like started the first reel and then finished the last reel, the first clip towards can't speak. So much improvement since the first clip to the last clip you've done. And I think when you've gone to splice them together, like there's some which are amazing and they sound really cool, and there's some which like in comparison are really lacking. And I think like Greg said, like it's very long, like 1:44. I reckon like literally take half the clips and just cut them, mate. Cut the ones that you don't like the most, or if not, cut the ones which are oldest. Because I think that would do you a really big favor, because you've got so much stuff anyway. And I quite like the kind of like quick cuts, like fast action-packed stuff. I know probably other people would prefer some slower stuff, but like I was entertained the whole way through anyway. But yeah, I just say instead of like worrying about making them all better, I just say cut half of them straight off the bat. Like cut the irrelevant ones, cut the ones that you think you did a long time ago, and just focus on the most recent ones, and yeah, just get them sounding even better. But like I thought the ones that like were my favorites sounded really, really good. And the intro I also loved. I thought it sounded really cool. I do agree with Greg that it probably went on for a bit too long. I'd say the main thing with the intro is that like there's some great sounds at the start, and then it kind of like fizzles out to like a lot of silence for a bit, even when there's still movement on the screen. So I'd say either fill the silence or just cut it shorter, and I probably cut it shorter. And also I think this is a note for everyone. Like I'm not a big fan of like replaying the same animation at the start and at the end. I know everyone works really hard on making them, but like I feel like it's just, you don't need to play it twice, not unless you've like changed it slightly and the audio is different. I'm not sure we have time to go through every single clip though.
No, I think what I suggest here is that we maybe pick like 3 that we would recommend to focus on and to build out, and then just give a little bit of feedback on how to improve that potentially. I think that might be a good one. Also, Matt said one thing also is it's usually good for him to credit the developer of the media in the title cards. Example, Destiny 2, in brackets, Bungie. Yes, 100%.
I need to do that.
For sure. That is something that's really good. So here, Guerrilla Games and stuff like that. Cool. I would say let's go through it, just like, and shout out the clips. Or actually we can maybe do it from here. So what's the best way of doing it?
Shall we just all grab one clip each?
Yeah, probably good. So I'll play it and then we can grab one clip each.
Okay.
cool. So I think for me personally, I'm just gonna play it quickly. It's the Horizon clip.
Yeah, that's the best one.
I think that sounds amazing. The vocalization sounds great. The whole slingshot thing is really on it. I think if you take that and expand it a little bit, make it use that for 10 seconds maybe, and just use that gameplay sequence and kind of take what you already have and then expand on it, and kind of make sure that you continue on with the same style of the kind of the weight of the animal, looking at also the ambiences and stuff, and the Foley movement and slingshot. I think you've got some, like, a really, really solid clip. I'll just play it again. Yeah, what you have here is really cool. I just think the one thing, for some reason, the slingshot is panned to the wrong side. It's like over here for me. Rather than, yeah, it sounds like it's over here rather than over here.
Are your headphones on backwards?
I don't think, is it different
Okay.
for everyone else?
Play
It's
it
the
again.
same.
Let's hear it.
I hear it as well.
Oh yeah, it totally is.
But funnily enough, I was thinking about this the other day, and I actually saw someone doing a YouTube video, and they were wearing DT 770s, but the wrong way around. And I didn't want to be that like dickhead who's like commenting on YouTube, just being like, they're the wrong way around. But like, it does happen. It's really annoying. Like every headphone, every pair of headphones has like the cable coming into like a different side. So it's totally an understandable mistake if that's what's happened.
Yeah, so that's the one for me, I would say. Yeah, just kind of expand on that, I would say. Who wants to go next? Lewis?
You go, John, because I've picked
John?
two, so
Cool,
I can
cool,
pick
perfect.
one you don't pick.
Okay, all right, yeah, fair. I'm gonna go with the Spider-Man Miles Morales one.
Yeah.
Because I think that one's really strong. Probably the one that's most fleshed out to me, and that I've probably got the most to talk about. I think where was it? There was a comment. Katharina said that it's very hard to redesign iconic sounds because people know how they're supposed to sound. And while I agree with that, I think I would expand that and say it's hard to design sounds, iconic sounds, well, because people are going to like nitpick it as opposed to designing something new. And you have two choices: either you can design it like how you would imagine it to sound. And this goes to a previous point that I've made in a previous stream about how you can do a redesign, or you can do a design study and sort of try to recreate and add a little bit to the sound design that someone's already created. But I think that what's here is really strong, but you could do with using OTT, to be honest. I think like a lack of compression is one of the biggest, I don't want to say faults, but the biggest bits that you could improve on to really just get these sounds to sort of like punch through. The web shots are really cool when you're swinging, but I think that I want to hear more city ambience. I want to hear wind rushing past the character and the camera to really give a sense of speed. And I think that those web slings could really do with just beefing up a little bit, because they do sound a little bit thin. I think that the punches have like weight to them, but they could probably do with a little bit more like detail. They could probably do with a little bit of like crunching or just like transient in it. And also same again, you could probably do with like a bit more ambience and a bit of Foley during the combat scene. There's also a guy here that there's like an electric power, and I think that you'd probably want to highlight that out and pan it, to the left as well, just following where it is on the camera. But they're my main points. I think it's a really good start.
Just one note for this one, really quickly. The punches, I think their pan job are really wide in the stereo field, which just threw me off a little bit. So I think, revisiting the punches and making them more crunchy and weight behind them, but also, making them not mono, but narrower, because I think that they don't sound positioned correctly.
Yeah, totally.
I just want to say also a general thing is it's really good to listen to your sounds on different volumes. Because I think what we all tend to do is we tend to turn it up as we continue to work on it, because we're like, oh no, I need to hear the details. And then when you turn it down, all of a sudden it's like, where are all the details? And so I think, just test your mix on different volumes and listen to what can actually be heard, what stands out, and kind of, it's just a good practice.
Yeah, I want to elaborate on that actually, because something that I've been doing recently at work, particularly with things like ambiances and all that, is like actually just putting like a noise floor in the background. I'm being really cheeky and listening, like referencing like Returnal gameplay in the background, and then trying to hear if my sounds are coming up through the Returnal gameplay, because then I know that it's like going to punch through. It's one of many ways to just make sure that your sounds aren't going to get lost in the mix. But also then it comes with like dynamic mixing as well, with volume ducking and compression and stuff like that. So but just a food for thought.
Cool.
Awesome.
I'll be very quick for my one then. So I was between the Spider-Man clip and Horizon clip. They've already been picked, so at least we all think alike. But we have one that I was also thinking of was the Tron Legacy film clip. I want to preface. God, I can't speak today. Preface this by saying, if you're just wanting to get into game audio, then I'd cut all the non-game ones. So I'd cut this one. Only keep this one in if you're like actually like applying and want to get into film audio or TV audio as well. But I'd say the reason I picked this one is because I think it's pretty cool, but I think it's lacking a really big important thing at the end, which spoils the whole thing, which is when the bike lands and drives off, it doesn't like have a sound when it lands on the ground. And like that, there's like sparks coming off, there's a big impact, the engine should be revving, it should be like a new boom as you zoom away. It should be like a huge moment, like all this kind of like cool stuff in the air. It's like leading up to this like big riser where it hits the ground and drives away. So I think you really need to get something in there for that. And as far as the actual kind of like the kind of lights and the whooshes and all that stuff goes, I think what's there sounds really cool, but I think you can have a lot more kind of like higher frequency layers as well, kind of like shimmery stuff. I like almost kind of like have a sound for every. It's going to be difficult, but for every single line that gets drawn in the air, like individually, it'll be really awkward to track play. But once you do that, you'll have a lot more movement. It will feel a lot more in sync. And then I think it will sound really cool when you get those in, because you've got a really cool bass, but I just think it could do with a little bit extra detail, and then the big hit at the end.
Something that Presley, who's actually, I think, if still watching, not sure, but posted today in Air Wiggles was kind of like, go nuts, add lots of stuff. It's easy to take things away afterwards, and I totally agree with that. And I think this is exactly a great example. It's like put loads of stuff in and then kind of like slowly mute things, take things away, and clean it up afterwards. I think, that this is a great example of this. Awesome. So overall, great job. I think main points, shrink it, use a couple of those good clips, expand them, add tons of detail. And welcome to everyone new who has joined. And also hello, Daniel and Waves and Games. Thanks for the kind comments. Let's jump into Jamie Lee's clip. Boom. Or not, because it's muted. There we go. Sweet. First impression sounds awesome. Second impression.
That sounds really good.
Ambiances. I think like all the sounds that are there are really, really cool. Like the door opening is awesome. I would just, because it's a really short clip, I just love to hear even more detail in all of the small sounds. So for the door opening, like even more wood creaks, make it sound huge. It would be cool to have like maybe like a cinematic intro whoosh into that, like a really short build up to get like into the creature vocal, and make that like even bigger. Maybe add some different layers so that it's not just creature, but like this whole like type of, with, I don't know how to explain it, this tricky, but overall really, really cool stuff. Everything that's there is awesome. I just add some more details. John.
Yep, same as Greg. Details and ambience. But in terms of details, I don't mean in terms of what's on picture. I think it's like just amping up what's on picture, because I think that it's fantastic. The little details like the skeleton getting pushed back onto the door, there's a thud for getting pushed back, and then there's a thud for actually hitting the door, and that's not a detail that a lot of people would normally pick up on. So I think that's really cool. But yeah, overall, really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Like, again, all the spot effect stuff that's there sounds really, really, really cool. So well done. That sounds amazing. But as Greg said, and as Jon said, the ambiences. They're always going to about ambiences on this stream. The one tip I'd say for this clip, especially, obviously, I'd say add more ambiences anyway. Like, say to this still here, whether it's inside and the door's closed, adding maybe little bits of wind passing through the holes in the door, but like mainly the stuff kind of like behind and around you, so the interior of a room tone. If there's anything in the background, there's probably, use imagination, anything that will fit in the scene, whether it's other people or other monsters, or just like birds or insects or wind or wooden creaks, metal resonances, whatever you think would fit. But I think the biggest thing is that you should add a spot ambience to the door, which is say the outside ambience basically. And when the doors close, you should filter it so it's the low and the behind's cut off. Like in real life, how doors filter sound. Then when the door opens and the camera kind of moves almost through the door to open that filter up, and have all this kind of the high frequency wind kind of rushing through and stuff like that. And then when the door closes again, to shut it back down again. And I think you can really play with the automation when you're doing that as well, because I think when they kind of the camera zooms forward and you hear the rush of wind as you open the door, I think that'd be a really because it's like it's hitting you. It's a scary thing going through this door. So having the ambience hit you as well as all the scary nail skeleton monster thing, I just think I'll really tie the whole thing together. But in terms of the sound effect stuff, honestly, I can't fault it. I think it sounds really great.
Yeah. For sure, super high quality stuff what's in there. I think it's like adding details to convey the vibe in terms of it's really, really scary, and what we said with the ambiences and all of that. But yeah, anything else to add?
Can you play it one more time? I've got a couple of notes. Cool. Yeah, fantastic. I think probably one of the notes that I have, or one of the ideas that I have with most of this is that, I think certain things could probably linger for a little bit longer. So, for example, when there's the hand goes on the door, I think you could probably hear a bit of Foley on the arm a little bit more, just a little bit of armor. I think there's there's an armor movement on the main character in this at the start, but it feels a little bit too it's over too quickly. And I think there could probably just be some secondary motion in there as well. I think that the electricity magic lantern thing, I think it's cool, but I probably want to see, when we were talking about details, I want to hear a little bit more electricity in there. So some more I'm thinking some Tesla coil kind of sounds as well, just something quite modulaty. And then the last one, I think I do hear some reverb at the end of the stab, but I think that the stab is kind of it's the crux of this clip, and I think that it could be just exaggerated even more. Put an anvil boom library sound or something. I don't know, just something that really makes it feel like a stab, or like a big cinematic moment, as opposed to just a sword going through the thing, and then go exaggerated with the reverb tail at the end as well. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, same stuff. I think what Matt said in the chat, I think it's missing a whoosh on the skeleton sword as it comes down. Could be cool to emphasize that. Yeah, I think in all, kind of, for me, details, but also cinematic. It sounds very much like what you would expect when you look at the screen, but it's it doesn't sound huge, if that makes sense. So it's adding the whooshes and maybe some kind of more cinematic sound effects, a little bit more tonal or something to make it sound bigger and stuff. But yeah, awesome. Then shall we move to the next one? Sebastian. Also, hello Tyler and Stephen Alvarez. Good to see you too. Cool. So, first impressions. Who wants to go first this time?
I'll go first if that's all right.
Go for it.
Okay, maybe I always go first. I don't keep track. I mean, I think it sounds cool, and I think, like we always say for everyone, I think ambience and Foley could just have more detail. I think I won't go into too much because I think if they're watching, they'll have seen the intro of this stream so far, and they've seen everything we want to say. It's still the same. Add more details to the ambiences, and add more details to the Foley. But one of the biggest things that's missing is like the Foley for the character running around when you've got like guns on their back. And you just can't hear like the cloth or the jingling or the heavy clunking of like the guns as they go up and down and they touch each other and all the clothes and the soldier uniform. I think that really add a lot of weight to the character and make it feel a lot more realistic. And maybe the footsteps are feeling a little bit too light as well, but that might be improved by adding the Foley stuff. One note which I think I can't confirm if this is definitely happening, but it sounds like there's a lot of times where I heard the same sound effect repeating twice in a row. For example, when they're opening the little gates on that power generator thing, there was 2 different gates and 2 different like blocks of metal, and it sounded like they had the exact same kind of squeak as they opened. Maybe they're slightly different, but in my opinion, they're not different enough. And I think they should be so much more far apart than that, because it took me out of it a little bit. I think I also noticed the same thing near the end when they're sniping people in the truck from close range. I think I heard some of the same reloads or like just like gun Foley sound effects like within about 5 seconds, and I think that took me out of it a little bit as well. But yeah, so maybe try to make this a bit more different. Over to you.
Do you want to go, John?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, same comments as Lewis. I think the footsteps in the first cut are not representative of the material that the character is actually running on. It sounds a little bit more metallic than what looks like asphalt or concrete, linoleum or whatever the hell it's called. And that was the major thing that really stood out to me there. I think the ambience could probably do with a little bit more interest, because currently it just sounds like a load of generators, but I think that there could probably be like a few more. You could try to emulate like a few more spot sounds and play with the stereo field a little bit more to mimic it being in like in a game. And I think generally overall, I think it's probably just missing a little bit of like weight behind things. Again, OTT is your friend with a lot of this stuff, or Uber Loud if you can afford it. But I tend to use OTT a lot for just making things feel a little bit punchier. Mainly the first sniper shot was the one that really stood out to me. That could probably just do with a little bit more like low end punch. But other than that, I think it's everything that Lewis said is spot on as well. Foley, ambiences.
Yeah. To not repeat everything that's already said, I totally agree with that. I think one of the big points for me is that when the gameplay interactions happen, this lever is really nice. I would love to have all of those interactions emphasized more. There's when the player opens the gates, you can barely hear that, and kind of this goes back to what I said before. Part of the to-do list of game audio, or the audio in a game, is it needs to give feedback and information to the player, and the feedback is like you're opening something, and the information is like, you know, the interaction was successful, kind of like that. And especially if there's people who are who struggle with sight, for example, and need audio a lot to kind of reinforce that, because for accessibility reasons, then that is extra important. So we need to really kind of be aware of that as well. And then I think the other part was, the Foley, everything, I agree with that. I think the gunshots didn't quite sound right in their space for some reason. So I think like play around with the reverb and actually the sounds that you're using, because they sounded slightly kind of not matching to the outdoor space that they were in. And also when there's gunshots and songbirds, I think take kind of all the songbirds out of the ambience when there's like any shooting stuff going on, because the songbirds is very much like a positive feeling, and when you shoot guns as well, like birds tend to fly away and stuff. And for example, I think I mentioned this on a previous stream, but Ghost of Tsushima has a really cool feature where when there's a combat encounter, kind of all the songbirds get cut from the mix. And I think they might have some crows and stuff in there potentially, depending on where the location is. But it just changes the mood and the feeling. And so that's another thing to think about, kind of like what's the feeling of this scene? What do we want the player to feel? So yeah, I think that's the overall feedback. But yeah, really good stuff. I think you might benefit from cutting the clip a little bit shorter and focusing on just maybe the first part or the second part and just adding kind of more details into that and making sure that kind of you take that feedback into that. But yeah, great job overall. Really good stuff.
Can I just make a point on the gunshots? Just because I watched a really good video from I can't remember who it was now, but I remember on Aftertouch Audio there's some good videos on gunshots. But was it Matt who posted the video about the gunshot redesign? It's on Air Wiggles. Anyway.
Yeah, it was Matt. I think.
Yeah, I'll get the link and I'll put it on the chat now.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was just like probably the best video that I've seen on how to make gunshots. And there's a variety of guns there, sort of like breaking down the sort of like 4 main layers of what you'd want to hear with that, and also how to put it into a space and stuff. So just thought I'd shout that out.
For sure, yeah. Both Aftertouch Audio, so Tyler and Matt have both put fantastic content together for gun sound design. So yeah, I think for those gunshots again, because their main feature, kind of focusing on that. Excellent. I've
just sent a link to the Air Wiggles gun clip, which is an awesome video. So thank you, Matt, for posting that.
Awesome. I did from the first clip. Is there a way that I could make this more obvious? I think I just heard them at the start when they were driving, maybe something. You're right here. That's true. Yeah, potentially what you could add here is some wings flying away, wing flaps or something, to make it more obvious. I also think the birds from a panning, like, they sound pretty close, so maybe if they're a little bit more distant, then that would help. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just laughing at the moment because Stephen Alvarez just said, I remember watching the video of the mixing of Ghost of Tsushima. The mixer literally said, "Birds are too pretty for combat." And that just made me chuckle. Thinking of games like Ghost of Tsushima and also something like Sniper Elite, I think that it's so true. Birds would get the heck out of there for sure.
Yep. Oh my god. Wrong. Don't inhale water. Let's move on to Soul Magnus. Nice. First
I
impression.
love that. That was so cool. I love that breakdown at the end. That was really, really great. I had a smile on my face the entire time. I absolutely loved the like the contact microphone stuff he did, and I loved using the squeaky tap of the monster scream. That was really, really creative. I really rate that. And I'm glad you included it as well. So I didn't get that you recorded all of it yourself from watching it the first time, like seeing how you broke it down and like use these kind of stuff creatively. Love that. I really, really enjoyed it. Sorry, I'm just awestruck. You guys.
No, it's really cool. It's very different from anything that we usually see, and it's nice to see people's process with stuff. So I mean, if you did like every single sound and that was recorded like by you, that's really, really impressive. Even if it's just the majority, because it takes a long time, like a real long time to actually go and source that stuff. So yeah, great job.
Yep, same for me. Super, super cool. Really, really awesome breakdown. Just very, very impressive. I mean, like, it feels bad to nitpick here when you've done everything yourself, because I think it's just hella impressive that you've sourced it all, and like the breakdown is super cool as well. The main thing for me, which is kind of so don't take this the wrong way, but it's like because this is a reel, I think the main thing for me is that if I'm kind of looking at this from a hiring perspective, it's really long in terms of like the intro and outro and kind of also the breakdown of it. So personally, if I was kind of like hiring, what I would like to see is like a shorter kind of intro clip with just your name, and then having the breakdown as a separate session. Maybe at the end of the video, it's like, here's maybe a short preview clip to the breakdown and like a link to find it on the website or something. Just from a like demo reel hiring perspective, by the way, because the breakdown is awesome. Love to see stuff like that. Love to see like that you've done it all, kind of recorded yourself. All of that is super impressive. But yeah, if you're watching it as a recruiter kind of or an audio director, just be mindful of that there's like a limited time span, that if you're going through 200 applications and each of the reels is like a minute or whatever, it's like a long time. So yeah, just be mindful of that. But otherwise super awesome.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that as well. I think that just these are two separate videos from like a reel perspective. I think one of them is, this is your show reel, this is what you can do. The intro and the outro way too long. I think it's really cool that you're showing like that you're working as well, as in like that you're actually a real human. It's not something that we see all that much. Probably because it's not really relevant, but I think it's still cool because it would set you apart, and they would, actually like remember a face to some degree. But yeah, I think that the whole breakdown is a separate video entirely, and but all in all, very entertaining video. The other thing that I was going to say as well is that putting together a reel is fantastic, that you're doing all of your own sounds. But I also think that if you're applying for, I don't know, like just a job that there are like hundreds of other people are going to be using like boom library sounds that are just going to sound like infinitely bigger and infinitely better than that. So I would say that if you're putting together a reel that you're like going to be like looking to get hired from at a studio that is like Gorilla or I can't remember any of the other clips now, I've just blanked. But like a PlayStation studio like that, I think that it's that they're going to want to see big cinematic sounds. And I would personally argue, I know that some people might differ on my opinion, but I would personally argue that they would rather people use library sound to some degree than record everything by hand.
Yeah,
anyway,
I agree on that for sure. I think the unfortunate reality is that we don't have time to record all our own source, especially when you're doing, I don't know, when you've got like short deadlines and you have to record lions and you can't really go to Africa or, so, and maybe you don't have like Sankan mic to pitch it down 3 octaves, and it still sounds good, and you have enough high end. And so I think that's where like libraries are really, really important. And so I think for the reel as well, because it's kind of like just showing off your sound design chops, that's really important. But again, like, this is not to take away from you doing it all, and the practice in this is also insane, and you did a fantastic job with this. And so this is really a valuable piece. I think what you could potentially do is just add more details in with library sounds and stuff like that. I think specifically for me, so I just want to shout this out as well. I love the glider sound here. It's so cool. That has got, it's such a good character, and it sounds perfect for like the visuals, and it's got a really, yeah, just awesome job. The main kind of getting into the more detailed side of things now, points for me are some of the transient things that aren't quite punchy enough. So for example, the gun or like the plasma bursts here, I'd love to hear a bit more like stronger transients that they're like really like shooting out and hitting stuff. Same with this is actually really cool. I think this is really, really good. But same here with when it comes to I think when Alloy hits the creature, the transient for I think for the first or the second one, it's not really there, and also the Foley with the creature, it's not quite as distinct. It was hard to kind of tell. So I think those kind of things, like adding a little bit more transient material, making the clarity, kind of bringing more clarity into the clip through those transients, I think would be really helpful. And things like it falls to the floor, there's a little bit of a lack of an impact. It's obviously sand, so it's not going to be super intense, but stuff like that, I would say, from a detailed perspective, on a general level, yeah, that's kind of my overall feedback, I would say. How about you, Lewis?
Yeah, I love this one, and I actually disagree with some of the points that you two have made, and I'll get into it. I feel like I could talk about this one for ages. So I guess it's a good thing and a bad thing. I guess I'll try to be brief with all the points I have. First off, I mean, number one, like that is, I've seen a lot of showreels now, probably, I don't know, maybe like 50 in the last year or so, and this one, like, I'll remember. Like the breakdown and like all the clips, like the artistic film like stuff you did at the end of it was really cool. It sounded great as well. So I really love that stuff. And the thing I disagree with Jon about, like Jon was saying, make them 2 separate videos. I get his point, because I think it is way too long as it is at the moment. What I would do personally, and I'm not saying this is correct, it's just what I would do if I had all this footage available to me. I would try to, I'd cut the intro, or I'd make the intro way shorter, and I go straight to these sound design clips. And then instead of like, there was one bit where you start like laying down the microphones, like here the microphones are used. Use this Zoom recorder and these microphones. So it was very slow, and I thought, is this going to be like a breakdown of just like random like things you own? That's like. But then I got it once it got going, and you started like showing all the the breakdowns and the clips and stuff. I'd say you can just shorten them by like cut to just like straight away to the really interesting stuff, like the tap. For me, the thing that really got me was the tap squeaking becoming a monster growl. I thought that was so cool. I just like cut straight to that, then cut straight to a few of the other like the Xbox stuff. And I wouldn't show the Xbox like scenes twice like you did. I just like cut like to 3 or 4 cool quick clips, and then just showing you how you edited them. And you can probably do all that within about 20 seconds, as opposed to like maybe like a minute it took. All the stuff you got, maybe keep it as a separate video as well. Great to have even more in-depth breakdowns. But I think for me personally, the stuff at the end of it was like was so unique compared to any other show I've seen. So I just love it, and I would keep it in the video. I just tried to make it a lot shorter. So again, aiming to get the whole video under a minute basically. And keeping it fast-paced, because whilst the ending was very artistic, I'd just say it could be a bit quicker. In terms of the actual sound, by the way, because I feel like I haven't talked about that enough. As Greg said, and I've seen some people asking about it in the comments, like I'd say, yeah, ditch for only using your own sound stuff. It's awesome that you can do that. It's really, really impressive. But ultimately, like that, you're lacking some things because you can't record everything. So I just say ditch that and use a mix of both. And if you're showing some of the stuff you recorded yourself anyway, like it's equally good. It doesn't matter you didn't do everything. If you did a lot of it, that's awesome. I'd say some of the sounds that you are missing. One of the big ones for me personally is mainly from the Horizon clips. Is that there's lots of stuff where like the camera's like whipping fast and really moving, and when you start gliding through the air, it starts kind of sailing down. I think you should add more kind of like whooshes on the actual camera move. There's one bit like where the camera was really close, kind of twisting around. I don't even play a character's name, but the character really quickly, like zooming in on all these like cool gadgets and stuff. But there's just like no sound. I think you've had like a woof, woof, woof type thing. That would add a lot of excitement. Some cinematic effects as well. I think that would be a nice addition. And apart from that, I say yeah, you can just layer in some like more like authentic ambiences, and overall like not real places, but like more interesting ambiences or like of nature recordings and stuff, which you obviously can't get yourself because you probably don't live in places that sound like this. So I say yeah, just adding that stuff would make it sound a lot better. And one very final note, and this actually it's not a note, it's just something which is really good, and I think the other clips could probably learn from. This is a showreel that's trying to like win your attention, is trying to like fight and sound amazing. It was a very loud showreel compared to the other ones. Compared to like say the previous clip that we looked at, like the volume difference, it was a lot more compressed and a lot more punchy. And personally, I liked that because it really grabbed my attention straight away from the get-go. So I really loved that. I think yeah, I'd say for the other people watching or other people doing their showreels, I'd say like try to match this one or like other clips out there in terms of just, like intensity and like compression and fatness. It can probably be a bit more like fat than as it would be in an actual game for like the sake of a showreel, because it's kind of like a trailer, isn't it? Trailer or like film trailers are so like heavy and hard hitting and really compressed because it wants to win your attention. And this one, it did win my attention. But yeah, I love this one. I really liked it. So yeah, great work.
Yeah, cool stuff. I couldn't agree more. I think in terms of doing redesigns and also just like studying by yourself, references are so important, as in just like even musicians and even artists will have like mood boards of stuff that they're looking at. I personally use it all the time. I probably spend most of my day like referencing things from other games that I'm like, this would sound really good if it sounded like a gun from Ratchet and Clank or something like that. And then I'd listen to it and I'd be like, what do they do really well? And then things like volume matching and stuff like that for trailers. Like you want your trailer to sound as loud as everyone else's trailers, because if yours sounds really quiet, then no one's really going to be quite as excited by it. But obviously that doesn't come at the expense of just whacking a limiter on it and then you've just got this big fat sausage waveform. So be careful with that, because that's that's a common trick for beginners that really just like squashes all dynamics in your clips, in your audio. I think everything that the guys have said is really true. Some of the things that I've really liked, though, just to highlight some stuff, I think that the character in the background here, the Foley on her, was really cool. It really stood out to me as just being like really quite punchy. The person that you can currently see like lying on the step. There was a moment where I think they were running up the stairs and it sounded really cool. The other one, the probably my favorite clip out of all of this is the Forspoken clip, because I'm a sucker for ice, but the water turning into ice, the big splash sound was really meaty. I think that it turning into ice could probably be even meatier, because that's kind of the highlight moment of that attack. You can see all the camera shake, you can see everything kind of like all the characters just like flying off. And I think that's really cool. Something to check out with that is there's a really cool mini documentary that the Monster Hunter team did for when Iceborne came out, and you can find that on their YouTube, I think it's on the Capcom YouTube channel. But that is a really, really cool, informative video on how they recorded ice sounds and how they then like implemented it into the game and how it actually sounds like with these like big dragons breathing out ice and stuff. And yeah, I think a lot of the electronic like electronically recorded sounds were really, really cool. But I think that sometimes the detail is missing. And I think a lot of what makes things sound modern in terms of like sci-fi, particularly when you listen to the creature designs of Horizon games, there's a lot of like really high-end crisp detail that's very stuttery and it's very pronounced and it comes out in the mix. Whereas I think that you could totally take the recordings that you have and just like don't just take them as they are, chop them up, like mess around with them, use lots of modulating effects, and see what you can come up with. Becky Street just did a really cool redesign of Horizon, I think it was. Got a lot of praise for that. But I also saw on her website that she'd put together these 2 sound packs of like glitchy stutter effects that she used for the monster designs. So yeah, I would totally say like check out that sort of stuff as well for references. But all in all, really fantastic job. So really kick-ass reel, and definitely different to everything everyone else is doing. So it really stands out.
Yeah, I just want to highlight as well, like, it's fine to use libraries because there were some questions about crediting and stuff, and basically, like, libraries are totally normal. Like, every sound designer uses libraries. You won't get away with not using them, really, because, like I said, even if you had access to all the locations, like, it would be really hard to get to, you know, to lions and tigers and bears and stuff, and
it just takes too long, is the main
Yeah.
thing, isn't it?
we often work on really short deadlines in the grand scheme of things. And even if you're on AAA projects, a lot of the there's like special time dedicated to this, which is pre-production. In pre-production, a lot of the thing is like planning and like, okay, what kind of assets are we going to need? What kind of material do we need to source? So for example, for Ghost of Tsushima and Bradley, I think Mayer, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, the audio director of Sucker Punch, he went to Japan with a bunch of the team and to a couple of different locations, and they did a big recording trip. And so they built their own libraries. Then they got, I think, Sony Santa Monica or something. I'm not exactly sure, so don't quote me on this. But they got someone to record tons of like different sword stuff, and I think they recorded it themselves or something. But this was all done like in the build-up phase, and then even then, I'm sure they used tons of library stuff to add layers and things like that. So it's always amazing if we can source the sounds ourselves or part of it. But usually it is only part of it, because at the end of the day, there's just time and all the things we've mentioned already. And I think regarding to the whole volume stuff, I think as well, I get asked so much, especially by people coming from the music industry, of like, oh, what's the mastering and all of these things, and what kind of LUFS do you kind of do stuff to, and honestly, it's like, unless it's specified in the application or something where it has to be 2-24 stuff, most of that is totally thrown out, especially when you're working in games. It's very much like, if it sounds good, it is good, and the main thing is that you monitor at like consistent level, so you know how loud the stuff is that you're actually listening to, and that you can do that by just, I've mentioned it before, but by listening to stuff like Returnal or something, and like actual games that sound really good, and then setting your monitors and your interface, and then just sticking like a little sticky thing to it, so you know, okay, this is like a good volume, and then when you go to your DAW and make stuff, you know that's kind of the similar volume. So yeah, like, don't focus too much on numbers and that stuff. Just like, use your ears, trust your ears, and yeah, I just want to emphasize that as well.
Yeah, totally. Just say something about the volumes and stuff, because funnily enough, I've actually been rejected for a job, or came like not first for a job, by having my I think it was an implementation test, and the assets that I was showing, it was an Fmod implementation, and the bit of feedback that I got was that I was recording my or exporting my sounds too hot, as in too loud. And it's something to keep in mind, because some people don't care. I personally, as long as it's not clipping and stuff, it doesn't really bother me all that much. But I know some people are a little bit more dedicated when it comes to game staging, and how important that is to not just be like completely like varying the volumes. So like importing something that's really hot and then putting it all the way down to like -20 in the game, and then you know, and then like putting a limiter on it to like increase it again, because that just messes stuff up. As far as I know, I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't really bother me all that much. But it's something to look into. I'm sure Greg's got something on his game audio learning website. Lewis, you look like you want to say something.
was just going to say, it seems a bit harsh, really. I would have thought slightly too hot is better than slightly too quiet, because that's my problem. I always export things way too quiet, and so when you bring them up via like the bit depth, doesn't really cover the stuff you're doing. But yeah, I don't really know about that. It's not really been a problem for me personally. So
yeah, I'm self-taught,
be aware of it.
so
Yeah.
I don't know too much about the physics of sound and digital recordings and stuff, but I know that there are some people out there who like really care about this stuff and that. So just a heads up, don't freak out about it. I've got by as far as I have without really caring too much about it. But I think something that I was going to say is look at Soundly. The website is getsoundly.com, and that is a very cheap, relatively, I think it's only like $15 a month, sound library and database that has an just ever expanding wealth of sound effects and recordings that will definitely, as a beginner, help you out like massively. And even if you don't want to pay money, it's linked up to freesound.org and a load of other things that you can get for free as well. So yeah, definitely check that out. The other thing that I was going to say is, again, referencing is, this is really cheeky and I probably shouldn't plug this, but I actually look at game rip like sounds online. So for example, you can find rips of Breath of the Wild or Splatoon and whatever, where they've actually taken out the wave files of the sound effects, and they're isolated, so they're just like the actual waveforms and that, and you can get like a really good idea of what like professional level like quality and volume of sound effects like should actually be. And I say should in inverted commas because there is no should. It's like, as Greg said earlier, like if it sounds good, it is good. But of course, if all of your stuff is distorting because it's too loud, then you need to have a bit of foresight with that stuff. So check it out, see if it works for you. It certainly worked for me. So anyway, carry on, you guys.
Yeah, for sure, Soundly, with regards to if you're beginner level and you're like, oh my god, so much money for libraries, Soundly is really worth it. And I think they have like a free month and all kinds of stuff. And yeah. I think it's really.
You can also just get it for a month and do all your work in a month and then cancel the subscription. To be fair, you probably won't want to cancel it after you see how good it is. But yeah, like you can have a month of every sound effect you want for £15 or whatever it is. So yeah, we'd recommend.
For sure. Just want to highlight a comment that Matt Galt just said is the only volume thing I know of is never start a demo reel with a loud impact after a silent intro. And I think that that's totally true. Like, lead your like crossfade your clips so that there isn't just like dead space when there's something like a big jump scare. Like jump scares you need to sort of like lead into, but if it's not a jump scare, then don't suddenly just have like a bazooka sound as the first sound that your showreel has, because then you're probably gonna scare the people looking at your reel, but also they're probably going to get annoyed about it, and that they're going to have some like subconscious bias against your reel, just because I think it's just common courtesy to not like deafen the people that you're trying to get hired by.
I don't think Cheryl should ever start with silence, in my opinion. Either start with like a little logo sound or just cut straight to audio, even if it's titles of audio underneath. Because you're just giving people like a few more seconds to click away before they hear anything.
But I mean, for example, like if you didn't have that, like say for example, like your title card is like a big like thud that comes in, like I think you would probably just want to err on the side of caution of not putting a jump scare in.
For sure, I definitely agree. Yeah. Are there any questions? I think we'll leave it at there. We'll do the Christus one next time, I would say, because we're already at 1.5 hours. But yeah, are there any questions? We hang around for 3 more minutes and see. Real talk talked that out of us. Yes. Yeah, Kevin is awesome, and he definitely pays a lot of attention to things like that, for sure. Definitely shout out to him for doing awesome stuff and definitely inspiring this, obviously. I think it's even in the description here.
Some great showreels today, weren't there?
Yeah, super fun. the quality is really impressive always, and it's cool to see some new stuff as well, some interesting with things from Sol, Magnus with the breakdowns. And yeah, the Electro Uzi Seraphonic, that's cool. I have this one, which is like a self-built. I didn't build it myself though. I can't solder, so I gave it to a friend who built it for me. Lazy, but yeah. Yeah, okay, awesome. Well, if that's it, then thank you everyone for coming by, and thank you to everyone who submitted the show reels. As always, as we say in every outro, we're nitpicking stuff. It's hard to put reels out there to get feedback, so fantastic for doing it. It's really, really good. It kind of makes your skin a bit thicker. We all have to get feedback from our bosses and leads and audio directors and our coworkers, so it's something that you'll always have to do as a sound designer in this profession. So it's good to get used to it. And yeah, thanks for coming by, everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure. Any closing words, Lewis and John?
Yeah, just thank you everyone for submitting stuff, and even if you haven't submitted stuff, we had I think I saw 20 people watching the stream. That's amazing. That's more than it was the last few times. So yeah, thanks for everyone watching, and hopefully it was helpful for you all. As always, any questions about something I've said, feel free to reach out to me and ask me. I'm happy to repeat anything or go into more detail, etc. And also you can just check out or post stuff on airwiggles.com for feedback as well.
Let me shoot the link in there. Yeah, so to just put that in, I should really add that to the stream. But yeah, Airwiggles is our little audio community, kind of next to Twitter, where it's a really friendly place. So much good people in there. Post questions, feedback, like anything and everything game audio related. So yeah, super useful. Also, just want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the donations. It really helps. All the money goes into maintaining the website. And yeah, John, any closing words?
Yeah, everything that you guys said, well done everyone. Some really good stuff. It's nice to see some people by posting new stuff as well, and seeing how people are progressing too, and nice to see people from the Game Audio Learning Discord too, because that place is really wholesome as well. There's active people doing stuff there, and what's really nice is that these places are quite wholesome. I don't think anyone who's mean or has loads of negativity really fits in a place like that, and they'll notice that very quickly. So love the game audio community, and also Airwiggles is really nice because Twitter is full of not so great stuff. So it's nice to keep all the good wholesome vibes where everyone's learning from each other. So
good vibes.
And lastly, yeah. Lastly, just well done to everyone actually posting their stuff and for people to see. You are helping other people improve, and that's fantastic. Also, like Lewis said, if there's any questions or anything, reach out to the three of us. We're more than happy to chat to you.
For sure.
Offer any more feedback or advice or details. And yeah, look forward to seeing people post more in the future.
Big love to the community, and see you next time, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone. Have a wiggly day.